Everybody, it is 6 o'clock. I want to welcome you to our board meeting. We're getting ready to start. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda item 3. Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Isaac?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Rudd?
Here.
Dr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. DeGrove?
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roman numeral 3, agenda item A, under our agenda, recognition of visitors and communications. We have a mental health presentation by Mr. Phillips.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to start out by just passing out a page. The first on the top is just some quotes that you can look at your leisure here in a little bit. The back is a page that we'll get to. We'll get to partway through here. Yes, sir. The first quote just kind of talks about, it's from the United States Department of Health. It just talks about the fact how the pandemic hit families over the last couple of years. The second one comes from the state of Ohio, just stating that that there are that they've recommended that schools work with their community partner, mental health partners, to provide services, which we are doing. The third is, as of March of 22, that there are still students and educators who are still dealing with the mental health concerns that people are facing. And then that fourth one I'll talk about and mention. It comes from just January of this year, and the statement is, we know one-on-one therapy won't be possible for every kid who struggles. So we need multi-pronged approach to help build capacity of teachers and staff to support kids in the classroom setting. So we have to look at the different options that we have. To make that a little bit more real, in June, this past June, myself and Lindsay Schmidt sat down with some of our intervention specialists at the primary level, and we asked them about the needs for those students. And their main concern was the emotional and mental health of those 5 to 8 year olds that they work with. Some of those students are seeing somebody from a mental health therapist from South Community, others are not, which is also true of their older siblings and peers, I should say. We can continue to serve them as we have, or we can look at different models and different options for us moving forward. Now, with the rather low cost of services this year, if you haven't seen that in some of my board reports, and been keeping you up to date on that, but not paying a whole lot this year for mental health services, and that's a fantastic thing. And we are fully staffed this year, which again is a very fantastic thing. it does make sense for us to partner with South Community this year for that purpose, for those two purposes. But as Dr. Para mentioned in that quote, we are looking for a multi-pronged approach to services. And there are services out there that an outside provider just can't provide that maybe we could provide ourselves here at the, with the help of a Valley View lead mental health specialist. My words, I don't know what the terminology or the person's role would actually be called. What this person could provide us, or what this person could provide is not something we're currently getting through South Community. And that includes group therapy and interventions. And when we think about that, we think about like grief therapy or a group for individuals who are dealing with anxiety, depression, etc. And some of those we can think about the overseeing of a mentorship of students. So for a student who's been dealing with some anxiety for years and has gone through the steps in the program and whatnot, maybe bring in a mentee for that peer, for that student to kind of to be seen by our mental health therapist, but also just bringing somebody in to say, hey, I've been there kind of deal, what can we do next? How can we work together? And then some in lieu of suspension ideas. It's something that administration we've talked about for years, and just how do we do in lieu of suspension well. So in lieu of suspension, I mean when a student has been caught with a vape or vaping for X number of times, and we're going to consider suspending that individual. Well, instead, a program where we can do in-house. Now, the ESC does some of that as well, but we could provide something in-house with this person where they are building those relationships with somebody that they'll see on a regular basis, not just somebody that comes from a different organization, does the thing, and then goes off to back to whatever district or building that they are in. After-hour parent meetings and home care. Not something that we do on a regular basis, but something that we do in student services. It's not uncommon for 6 o'clock at night to be knocking on the door of a family because there's a need. There's something that we need to address with them, and that's the time to do it because that's when we know they're home. So they'd fall into that as well. They'd help reduce the stigma related to mental health services. They'd work with counselors to triage and determine, and school counselors I should say, to triage and determine the level of need. That lead mental health therapist specialist job description is on the back if you haven't flipped your paper over yet and looked ahead. That's there for you to take a look at. Just to address a couple of those, obviously at the top, that person holds the right license that they need to be able to fill that role. And the different license does come, or the different licenses there do come with different levels of what those individuals could provide depending on who applies, etc. The skills, the second one there, ability to communicate effectively and with students and parents, obviously important and vital in what they do. Along with the last one there, has that strong, flexible mental aptitude and adapt to unpredictable situations, as happens in the mental health field. Sometimes you think something's going one way and all of a sudden you get that hard left turn, and you got to be prepared for that. The description develops and oversees the referral for in-district services with contracted community mental health agency. We already started that this year actually, where when there's a referral that it comes to one person, and then that person goes out from there. It's a model that we looked at from a couple of different schools. We see that it's working well, and there are some benefits to that for us. The next one, provide individual therapy needs. We talked about that, individual versus group. Sometimes there's opportunities for both of those things depending on who those students are. And the list goes on, and I don't need to bore you with what's in front of us, but I wanted to make sure you saw that. Looking forward, what I'm suggesting is sometime this month, next month, that we look and post and interview and hire in September or October of this school year. Once hired, that person would work with administration and staff to start implementing Valley View's multi-pronged approach. In January, we'd start looking at working with that person, with Mr. Schaller and myself, Valerie, to determine the best next steps for 23-24 school year and what that looks like. That could be moving toward hiring staff within while working in a private, working with private insurances, so billing private insurances ourselves, working with Maxis, the multi-agency community service information system. You all knew that, so did I, before I read it off. And Medicaid to offset the costs and then bring those dollars back to Valley View. We could look at other options as well in the Dayton area. And then our other option is that we could remain with South Community, but those are things that we want to look at for the following year. So the request is to hire a full-time licensed counselor or social worker for the 23-24 school year, and hopefully beyond that a little bit, depending on what those abilities are and what we end up determining what to do. What questions do you have for me?
Just seeking some clarification. So you would still keep South Community
This year.
This year,
Yes.
and then start this lead. That would be your ideal, to start this lead mental health specialist this year as well. Working
That's right.
in tandem or
Yeah.
in conjunction with or concert with, and then next year evaluate whether or not we need South Community.
Correct. Yeah.
So South Community was going to put forward, I think they said, was it 3 or 4 counselors?
We have 3 this year. We have 3 total counselors
You go
this
from
year.
3 to 1.
No, not necessarily. We'd have to look at what that is. We might be able to get to 2. That's always been the goal, is to drop back to 2, based off of some of the, yeah, exactly. You see it too.
I live it.
Yeah, we'd love to be able to say that we can get to that spot, but again, all the research right now, and this is just a fraction of what I, Googled and looked at, and everything's saying the same thing. Right? The need's there right now, so it would make a difference on what we provided as far as 2 or 3 moving into 23-24 again, who we work with and what partners and whatnot. Anybody else?
We have an idea
Yeah.
what the cost of this individual would be.
After with benefits,
Like what we pay that we wouldn't have to pay if we didn't hire.
yeah, 80 to 95,000, maybe a little more. Yeah. Anything else? Maybe a little higher, she said. Okay.
Not enough of them to go around, so you have to be
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah.
Do you know how much less the Southview contract than the other contract went down, isn't it?
Substantially for this year. Yes.
So comparatively,
We'll with the hire of this person and what we pay South Community this school year, we'll still save quite a bit of money.
thanks much.
But they didn't fulfill the contract last year.
Last
because
year,
of
and
personnel.
that's part of where we got this.
Yeah.
So bring,
But that's the reason we're probably kind of being reimbursed for the lack of services last year for this year.
Yeah. They're aware
Well,
of.
I just want everybody to be aware of lack of services last year.
That's
because
right.
it's a lower price this year.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it would jump next year, but not to the same extent based off of the strategy we would probably use if we stayed with South. It'll jump, but it won't jump back to where it was years before.
well, and ultimately then, if we approve the hire, 2 things we'd be getting is 1 year of seeing how effective this individual is in this position.
Absolutely.
And the second thing we'll be getting is we will be getting 1 year of seeing whether it's effective, and then I don't remember what the second one was.
We get
You're
4
gonna tell me.
counselors.
Like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 independent, other 3.
3 South Community therapists and 1 in-house.
I remember the second thing we get.
Yes,
We stop being dependent, at least to the extent of 1 person
that's right.
on South to fulfill their obligations.
That's right. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody. Roman numeral 3B, public participation. I have 1 name, Ms. Gunter. need you to speak up a little bit, though.
Okay, my name is Dawn Gunter, and I live at 15545 Deckett Road in Farmersville. Thank you, board members and Superintendent Schaller, for giving me this opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm here on behalf of the Valley View Performing Arts Facility Committee. We are a group of citizens, parents, and educators who are invested in the performing arts. We're here to ask you for assistance. In 1922, Germantown celebrated the opening of a new school building. In it were modern classrooms, electricity, new chalkboards, a cafeteria, a gym, and indoor plumbing. Around that same time, Farmersville built their new school. Both communities had several things in common. They had the foresight that an auditorium would be an important and necessary part of any new school construction plans. Both communities gave the kids of their district a place to showcase their art. It's now 2022, and a small town community is building a new facility for its children. The most important difference from a century ago is the omission of a space dedicated to the performing arts. How are we different from those people 100 years ago? We have foresight. This community has appreciation for the interest and the talents of all who attend our schools. This community understands that a theater, an actual auditorium, is a vital part of the cultural and educational development of the children in the school district that the school district serves. Our community understands the power of the performing arts. Our students, those who look to us for guidance, example, and nurturing, deserve the same. I cannot imagine a community that would not provide for them, especially my community, the community in which I raised my children, taught my students, and directed cast and crew members. We ask that you find a way to provide a performing arts facility that at the very least equals those which exist in our neighboring and conference school districts. In the handout are pictures of the performing arts facilities from Carlisle, and you have those on your table, Brookville, Eaton, Monroe, Madison, Preble Shawnee, and Franklin. As you can see, the schools in our conference, schools in our neighboring districts have beautiful spaces in which their children can perform. They have mostly modern school buildings and have somehow provided a space for their performing arts department. We should all be asking ourselves, why can't we do this? When they built their facilities, they all understood the legacy that they would be leaving for the generations that follow, just like our Valley View forebears did a century ago. They included all of their children. In 1969, the new high school was built, and inside that building was a stage, but it was in the gym. In the theater world, that is referred to as a gymatorium. It makes theater directors across the globe cringe. Not much theater happened on that stage, because when you place a stage in a gym, you must contend with the schedule of the gym. Hence, the stage is seldom available. Valley View students did try to produce plays on that gymatorium stage, but quickly abandoned it for many reasons. The seating is uncomfortable. The dialogue is made unintelligible despite miking the actors. The lighting is a menace, and the stage was and still remains tile, which is unsafe for any actor. Valley View took their productions back to the 1922 stage where it remains. Despite the current situation, Valley View has produced shows, and though we've lamented our inadequate little piece of wood, it's been our home. And we have loved it while dreaming of a day when a vintage little piece of wood will become a real and modern stage. In 2 years, that 1922 version of an auditorium will no longer be available, and our performing arts students have nowhere to go. Whether a cafetorium or a gymatorium, neither would ever be described as adequate, modern, or an upgrade from the early 1900s stage that the performing arts have used for literally a century. But this is a new era. You are a new Board of Education, and we now have new leadership. And the Valley View Performing Arts Facility Committee has hope for the future. We know that you have the same hope that we have to provide a performing arts space for a program that often includes 1/4 of the population of the high school. We believe those are pretty impressive numbers, and we hope for a facility that is impressive to match those. A facility that would not only feature the performing arts, but provide a space for class meetings, for assemblies, for ceremonies, and a host of other uses for school and community. Everyone benefits. The Valley View Performing Arts Committee has one goal: to be the unrelenting advocates of a fully functional theater for the performing arts for the students of the Valley View School District. The Germantown and Farmersville communities in 1922 knew the value of performing arts. We can not only honor and provide for our children today, but we can also pay tribute to those who 100 years ago said the performing arts are important to our school district and our community. Thank you for allowing me time to give voice to this concern, and we look forward to a positive collaboration with you towards our goal. Thank you.
Jessica. Roman numeral 4, approval of minutes. We have the regular board meeting of August 8, 2002, and the work session of August 27, 2002. You had a chance to look at those in your board packet. Will someone make a motion that we approve the August 8 meeting minutes?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I did just skip you guys. No, I didn't. Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Iser?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Next we have the work session of August 27, 2022. So we'll make a motion that we approve those minutes.
I make a motion.
Do we have a second? I heard two motions. Can we just count Bob as a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Iser?
I will abstain.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 5A, building project update. Turn it over to you.
So, other than playing in the mud, that's what we're doing quite a bit of. So, take a minute to introduce the board. It's been a while since y'all have seen him. Bill Barney, site superintendent, on-site supervision, 100% of the time. Chris Hermer, project manager, assigned throughout the end of the project. Both met at proposal time, but this was the first meeting that we could all get together and be able to make reintroductions. So we've been on site working with Eric and the site work crews as we'll get through their site. One of the glitches. Did you have it up? No, the other one. Oh, that's all right. This will be. All right, so I have this on the computer and it wouldn't show up very well. So back to kind of like we had discussed last time with our early site, we currently have all of our storm, water, and sanitary has been run from Manning over to the site, ready to cross over. We have the building pad here is all been dug, and we're putting in all the fill to bring it up to grade. We are about 2 weeks away. We've got the last little spot of grade here, about 2 weeks away of planting all of the seed for the ball fields. Start establishing that growth this year so that next year we have a good growth and potentially figure out a way to let you guys use your practice fields earlier rather than later. We've got drives cut. We've got these accesses cut in. We've got drives cut in. We've got the student parking cut, and then we're waiting on our permit for our watershed, the last little piece of it, so that we can tie in and create the pond that goes up here. Start shedding the water from the site, getting it gone. The last couple weeks, we've kind of backed off the building pad with all the rain that we had so that we didn't tear it up worse and cost money to do it. We are still very ahead of schedule. We are in no danger, even with a little bit of rain that we've lost, of being behind schedule, and we're still on track to stone and have asphalt this year. There you go. So, I've been asked to kind of explain this a little bit. So you have, see it or not, you have the access road going into Manning, or off of Manning that comes in inside. We have in the project at this point, this access road and all your utilities that come across and tie in stone. And there was an alternate in it to create it and make it asphalt. So through the project, we've done our traffic study, submitted everything to the county, and the county come back and said, you need to do a turn lane improvement from property line to the intersection. That's pretty expensive. That's expensive. That had a price tag of about $1.5 million that come with it. That is all force fed from the county. They say you have to do it. Traffic study says you're going to get the number of buses, cars, staff, students, that this is what we recommend. So we went back to them with an alternate traffic study that says, okay, if we reroute some of these to places that it makes sense, buses come into the bus line, teachers come right to the teacher line. They liked the idea, they changed it, and it dropped it by $500,000. By dropping it $500,000, that allowed the $200,000 to go in to finish out the Manning and save the project $300,000. So this was something that was going to be later, but because of the traffic study, it's cost effective to go ahead and do it now, and it keeps the district from spending an extra $300,000 they wouldn't have to spend.
If I recall, that was one of the items on our kind of wish list.
Yes.
When we were looking at if we have to leverage PI funds, that was one of the items that we were,
Yes.
that we were going to consider.
Yep.
But so just so I'm 100% clear, what you're telling us is that according to the county, we have three choices. Either build out the road at a cost of over $1 million,
Yes.
put in the access that was an option before,
Right.
or don't build school. Those are our choices.
Yeah, well, actually, this would have been a cost of $1.5 million. Right. But if you do the $200,000 that brings this in,
Yeah.
this drops to $1 million. So it's $300,000 less
Yeah.
on the overall.
But 1.2 million more than had the county said, hey, the road's fine as it is.
That's
So
correct.
that's another 1.2 million we gotta come up
We
with.
still gotta widen the road if we use the other access?
Yes, yeah, that always,
The bridge too?
just
Because what I was told, if we use the back access,
from here to here has to be widened.
from where?
From the edge of property right before the
I
drive
can't
coming
see it,
in.
but does it include the bridge?
It's right past the bridge. If you include the bridge, that's where your extra cost. Because when you're riding it, every structure that's there has to be widened. And then you've got grade, and you've got stone, and you've got asphalt, and striping, and lights, and everything that goes in. So, but at the end of the day, it's two options from the county, and one come at 1.5, one come at 1. It was $1,050,000, and this was definitely the best way, and it gets you this access. It kind of
The folks want to
makes
get
the
it.
decision.
And we can't reroute it out any other area because the traffic's too close to each other.
That's correct. That's correct. And this gets more direct path to the intended parking. You know, it takes the teachers right to the teachers. It brings the students right to their lot. And it intermingles all of that traffic at a very minimum. The teachers won't intermingle with the buses. The buses won't intermingle with the student parking. It literally segregates all three of them to a better traffic pattern.
Initially, when I met with you, the back driveway was gonna cut $1 million off because it was gonna cost $500,000 basically for the back drive versus 1.5 or I forget the number shown, for the widening of the bridge and the road in front of the existing school.
Right. The 1.5 here,
Yeah.
by putting this in, takes this down to 1.
Okay, I wasn't told about that, still spending the 1 on that. But I didn't know that we still had to widen that road.
Yes, we still have.
I knew we had to make a turn lane, but didn't know that we had to widen it.
Yes, all the way to the corner, all the way to Manning. Any questions about
I don't think so, that's pretty clear.
it? Yeah, it's,
Here's what it is.
yeah, all driven by the county.
Right, I'm gonna turn.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Roman numeral 6A, discussion of fiscal year 2023 financial master plan. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, no question.
Sorry.
All right.
I told Mr. Schaller that this is a very dry, very boring financial presentation, which is exactly how you want your financial presentations. Nothing exciting happening here.
There we go.
Okay. What I thought we'd do is, this is a review of the 2023 master plan. If you recall, back in May, we did a review of our 5-year forecast. This master plan played an important role in that 5-year forecast. So what I thought we would do very quickly is to do a real quick recap of the 2022, how we've ended up in financial statement, financially for fiscal year 22. Take a little bit high level of what we're looking at in 23, look at some of the assumptions that were baked into the 23 forecast and see where we end the year, what we're forecasting, and then a quick look at our permanent improvement fund. In 2022, our revenue was about $1.7 million more than what we had projected, and that came primarily in state funding as well as the income tax. State funding, they started with in January, we started with the new state funding model, and funding were educated. On the income tax, we had a robust income tax collection, and then B, that was our first full year of the income tax levy. So that's why it was, in 21, we had half of the year. So 22 was a full year. In 22, our general fund expenses were essentially exactly what we projected. So this gives me, and the same master plan model was used to project the 22 expenses as was used to project the 23. So the modeling, I feel I have a great deal of confidence in. And our ending cash balance in fiscal year 92 was $9.8 million. That was a surplus. And that is directly tied to our 1.7 overage in revenues. Fiscal 23 risks and uncertainties that we face are very much the same that we're seeing in May. These are very much the same as I reported in May. They include inflation and the general economic uncertainty of possible recession. We're still dealing with supply chain issues, although they have been alleviated a bit. We are still experiencing supply chain issues with different items. It constantly changes what we're experiencing. Labor market shortages. We're still facing that, although data says, we have full mental health capacity. It's alleviating some, but we're still having some trouble. Everybody's having trouble. Bus drivers, we just started the year. Custodians, who knows what's going to happen. The pandemic also, I reported we're in a new state. I think everybody is holding their breath, waiting on what this fall is going to bring. As the people continue to get sick with the new variants, but we have a new vaccine come out. We just don't know. And what really has us concerned, and I was just talking with our director of curriculum, Nicole Thomas, last week, the impact of the federal fund, ESSER funds, expiring, and what that is going to have. We end those funds in 24, being able to use those. Did we receive them long enough? Are there other programs that we have discovered through this 2 or 3 years that are really good programs that we want to continue into 25 out of the general fund? Those are all, we don't know. We don't know. We haven't made an evaluation of that. So while I don't have that baked into the forecast, I wanted to make sure that I expressly stated we need to make an evaluation of that. So our 10-year look at revenues. What I've done is I pretty much kept everything pretty steady. Our property tax revenues, keeping those steady. Income tax, I did not project the robust growth that we experienced last year, primarily because of the inflation and the economic uncertainty. So I kept that very modest. You'll notice that in the other line is a drastic decrease. What we had last year is we had a couple non-repeating events, so that I did not project that forward into future years. And we will also continue the pursuit of grant opportunities. We've got one that I'm going to work with Eric yet this week for a safety grant. We're just continuing to look at different grants that are out there. Our master plan expenses include our salaries, included the 2.95% increase in our contracted salary increase plus steps. I also factored in our known turnover, people that we knew that left over the summer, and factored the new hires that have come in. In our benefits, you'll notice a substantial increase year to year to year to year. This is just a continuing trend. Our benefits, I factored in 8%. That was our increase from 22 to 23. This being part of the EPC pool actually benefited us greatly. Our loss ratio was 25% over 21. So had we been alone on our own buying this, our benefits would have cost 25% more in 23 than they did in 22. Then I've also increased our electric cost and fuel cost. And if everybody's gotten their DP&L bill or AES, you've probably noticed a substantial increase. Same with fuel. In our curriculum, what is happening there is we had 2 speech pathologists resign in June, July, late. And we have contracted with the ESC for those services. So it moves lines. It comes out of the salaries and it goes into the curriculum line. However, all of those factors, our cash position continues to remain strong. Our days in cash, which is our expenses, how much it costs per day to run our district, our balance of that, we continue to show in 23, I've got 95 days of cash on hand. In 24, 93, 25, 80. Still considered, I think way back when we did master planning 10 years ago, we said, 60 days cash that's our sweet spot. That's where we really want to be.
What made us go over budget in 25 on expenditures?
We are looking at transportation.
Okay.
Our contract expires, and we are going to have to
Allocate either buses or the price of it going through the roof.
Mr. Schaller has talked with First Student, and we've gotten indications that transportation is really
But that's the difference of 24 and 25.
the biggest part, yes. Is that
Yes.
So, cash position is looking good and continues to be strong for several years. What's important about this is not actually the actual numbers, but gives us confidence that we can react to shocks that may happen in our business, either to revenues or expenses. So we've got a nice runway. And we can plan, we can take our time. We are not hair on fire position. In our permanent improvement fund, at the end of 2022, we had about $850,000 that were available for projects. Through our permanent improvement fund, we collect annually about $1 million. So we have that available, and we continue to make very careful decisions, very deliberate decisions about what we spend money on and what we don't spend money on in the permanent improvement fund, knowing that we have the building project happening. Considerations for 2024 and beyond. One thing that I am concerned is not the right word, but I'm keeping my eye on and keeping my ear to the ground. In that the new state funding model, it was fund where educated. We had a 6-year phase-in plan for that. So every year the model would get a little bit closer to purely using the model. We are in year 2 of that, and the state budget was only approved for this second year. Year 3 through 6, we don't have the state budget approved for that. So it's in flux, in jeopardy. There's nothing guaranteed that will continue to happen. Our transportation contract. We are looking at our last year of first student, and going to contract that again, or make our decision about that. That could be fairly costly. And we also open negotiations in 2024 for wages and benefits with our union. And that is all. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Okay. Thank you very much, and Kathy, thank you so much.
Roman numeral 6B, recommend the board approve the financial statements for the month ending August 31st, 2022. Would someone like to make a motion to that effect? Do we have a second?
Second.
Valerie, would you like to just do a quick explanation for the record why we do the August and not the July financial report?
If we had July, there's just 1 month that's out there, so it's not necessary. We typically just haven't done the July approval, but August, you got 2 months. We've got the start of school. We've got our master plan done now. That is in these financial statements. So we're ready to hit the ground running in August.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed who made the second. Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Iser?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 6C, recommend the board approve the following then and now certification. The amount required to meet this obligation is in the treasury or the process of collection. It's the Boyle Mechanical 3750
So moved.
obligation. Do you have a second? Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Iser?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 6D, same issue for the Walsworth 687809 invoice. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Iser?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 6E, recommend the board accept the following non-public students and school attendants whose parents accept transportation reimbursement for the 2020-2021 school year. So this is kind of looking back, kind of a
Catching
catch-all.
up.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Iser?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 6F, recommending the board approve the resolution to declare transportation impractical for certain identified students. Someone make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Valerie, would you mind just giving a quick, for the record, explanation of what we're doing here?
Yes, this is a new resolution that identifies, the new law requires us for payment in lieu of transportation for students who go to charter non-public schools. The board to approve that these students at these schools are eligible for payment in lieu of transportation.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Iser?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7A, recommend the board approve the addition of lead mental health position. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I can say personally, my two things that are appealing about it to me is that it does give us that opportunity to see what having someone in-house can do. We do have the benefit of the failures last year that allowed a lower cost this year, and so from an economic standpoint, it's not a substantial hit. And I think it opens up the idea of potentially saving some money in the future, and so for those reasons, I would support it. Any other comments? Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Sizer?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGrove?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7B, recommend the board approve Amanda Meyer to be appointed as a trustee for the Germantown Public Library expiring December 31st, 2023. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have discussion? I do have a couple points of discussion. We have an interesting setup in Germantown as it pertains to our libraries, our library, and our school board. Specifically, while the library is an organized entity governed by its board of trustees, the only people who are accountable to the electorate as to who serves on that trustee board is the Board of Education. And so while we are fiscally separate entities, there is that tie, there is that connection. The bylaws of the Germantown Public Library allow for it to be called Germantown Public Library Valley View School District. That's under section 1 of the bylaws. Also, one of the stated objectives is to supplement and assist the education of the students of the Valley View School District. And so based upon that, to me, I think it's very important that we as a board examine what we're doing. Is this merely a rubber stamp? Do we simply just say whoever gets nominated, we don't know anything about them, we haven't asked them any questions, we haven't made any determinations about these individuals or what their intentions are to do in terms of the direction of our library? Or is our responsibility something more than that? As the only elected people who have anything to do with this, and frankly, if our library was to go completely off the rails, the people that ought to be held accountable for it is the Board of Education. Because the Board of Education appoints, by law, the individuals who serve as trustees. I do not know Ms. Meyer. Is Ms. Meyer here? I don't know if maybe someone might be able to help me. Is this the Ms. Meyer that spoke at our June board meeting? Yes. Is this the Ms. Meyer that posts as Mandy Worthington on Facebook? Do we know? If so, I have some questions. And I have some concerns about entrusting this position for a period of 7 years to someone that we really don't know. Because libraries are an important part of our community and our functioning. They need to be places that are replete with classical liberalism, with freedom of speech, and with a focus upon openness and idea exchange. It's very important that we do not appoint, to me, someone who opposes that. It's also very important to me that we do not appoint someone who would consider themselves an activist, because I don't think that our public libraries ought to be a place of activism, particularly as an extension of our school. And so that's a concern. I don't know this individual. I'm personally not comfortable voting for this individual to appoint her for 7 years until I know more. And so I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this vote so that we can get our minds around and have an internal discussion about
This
what.
hasn't been an
made
issue
in
for,
second.
I know, and I can make a motion during discussion to postpone
this
this.
hasn't been an issue for,
Okay,
in
so
the history of the school
They,
district. Why is
they
this an issue all of a
can
sudden?
be removed. You do under,
I do
did you
understand.
read the whole thing?
Yeah.
And they were,
Okay, well, they can be removed.
I-
they don't come to
By
us
us.
until the Board of Trustees of the
So
library
what-
has approved them.
I understand.
Well, then, understand that the
This is
motion's been made and
unnecessary.
seconded.
This is absolutely unnecessary.
I appreciate your sentiment. However, parliamentary procedure allows me to ask the board to vote to postpone it. They can choose not to. And that'll be a vote that people will have to make. Ultimately, you're right. We can remove a trustee.
Exactly.
I prefer to not go back and have to fix things. I would like to do it right the first time.
Oh.
Spencer, I would suggest to you, and I'm sure this is amusing to both of you, you're laughing for some reason. I don't think
It's
it's particularly
offensive
funny.
to the Board of Trustees of the library
Okay.
who have already approved this person and done that vetting. So you're saying you do not trust the body that has run successfully our public library
Since
system?
way before.
What
Right,
I'm
for
saying to
years.
you is that you hit
This is
the
offensive.
nail on the head. You said that rubber stamping this, those weren't your words, but you said this is how we've always done it. We just approve whoever they put forward.
I said this has not been an issue.
I
in
understand.
over 30 years. So
And-
why is it an issue now? I said nothing about rubber stamping.
If-
I say I trust the Board of Trustees of the library, who is in charge of running a very successful and has
So what
for
are
the
we-
history of the system.
And you trust the Board of Trustees, who you said literally this board has never once actually considered who it appoints.
I never said that that was an issue. I said this has not been an issue.
It's an issue now.
That's unfortunate. So can we move on? Put the
Well-
motion forward, let's vote.
Okay. Actually, I don't think I'm done with discussion on that motion. I do think, as the only people who are accountable for the direction of our library, they're saying right here, there are 5 of us. I think it is worth at least taking a month to have an internal discussion and to do a little vetting, because what is the worst that happens? We wait a month and appoint somebody if we think that they're worth appointing. What's the downside to that? I don't understand the push to just push things through. Let's do our jobs. I'm making,
If you did that all the time,
I'm
then
not-
I would be fine with you talking like this, but you have not done that. So there's a motion that's been made
And I've made
and
a,
seconded.
and I've made a
So
motion to postpone this. issue on the basis.
Nobody seconded it.
I'm going to ask for a second. If no one seconds it, we won't vote on it.
Okay, then let's go. Proceed.
I don't often get perplexed, but I'm almost there. Will someone, I'm making a motion that we step back as a board and consider actually finding out who we're appointing before we make an appointment. Do we have a second? With no second, my motion is off the table. So back to the original motion to appoint Ms. Meyer. Discussion on that motion. My concern with Ms. Meyer, one, I believe her to be activist. I believe her to very likely have views in terms of the pedagogical effect of the library that is inconsistent with the majority of this community. I am trying to run down, because every time you search for Mandy Meyer, prior Facebook postings that used to be attributed to Mandy Meyer are now attributed to Mandy Worthington. I can give an example of one from 2020 where it says Mandy Worthington, but the reply is to Mandy Meyer. And it was in the context of showing a film on a private premises because some people in the community had asked for it. And someone, I'm just wanting to find out if this is the person we're about to appoint to our library trusteeship. Someone said, quote, "If you are truly showing the movie based off suggestions and not using it as some form of local political device, then I'm officially suggesting a good pornography film be played at some point." I don't know if this is the same person. I just want to find out. Because if it is, I don't trust that person to be in this position of influence with our children and our local library. I personally think that it's a bad idea to make a blind decision in that context. If no one else agrees with me, then I'll be the one that says it's a bad idea and I'll move on with my life and not lose any sleep over it. Any other discussion?
How many people are on this board, the library board? How many sit on the library board?
I've got the numbers right here. Give me 1 second. I don't believe the bylaws specifying an amount, but I do have the auditor's report that might say.
The reason why I ask this question.
7 members.
I can't, in my mind, I can't perceive that 6 other individuals would put forth somebody's name who would be really outside of the groupthink. So that's just my thought. I can't imagine 6 other people would not vet somebody and put a name forward of somebody who they believe would be able to do the job and do it appropriately. Second thing is, you bring up a very interesting, and it's slightly off topic, but not really. I'd love to know what is their plan to assist our schools academically, because we do need their support. And I would like to see what their detailed report is as to how they're going to assist our students, if it is indeed in their bylaws. That piece very much attracts my interest. So that's why I didn't support your motion, because I don't believe 6 other people would put this person's name forward if she was really outside of.
The goal of kids.
I would respectfully suggest that if 5 people can approve someone without knowing, 7 people can appoint someone without knowing. And I would also suggest that the board of 7 can operate just fine as a board of 6 for 1 more month until we find out. I don't think, any other discussion? We have a motion to approve Ms. Meyer, and we have a second. Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
No.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7C, recommend the board approve FFA trip to the National FFA Convention, Indianapolis, Indiana, October 26 to 29, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Valerie, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7E, recommend the board approve the FFA trip to the Ohio FFA Camp, Carrollton, Ohio, June 5th to June 9, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I think we missed D.
Oh, you missed D.
Did I miss D?
There's
Yes.
2 FF.
Oh, there's 3 that got me.
There's 3
Yeah, let's do D first. May 4th to May 5th, 2023. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7E, recommend the board approve the FFA trip to the Ohio FFA Camp, Carrollton, Ohio, June 5th to June 9, 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Do we have discussion? Should I call the roll, please?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7F, recommend the board approve the Valley View Boys Tennis Team trip to Hilton Head, South Carolina over spring break 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7G, recommend the board approve the Valley View Boys Baseball Team training trip to Jackie Robinson Training Complex in Vero Beach, Florida, March 25th to March 30, 2023. We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a discussion. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7I, recommend the board approve the high school symphonic marching band and chamber choir. Wait, did I skip?
Yeah, you skipped H.
Holy smokes. Roman numeral 7H, recommend the board approve the 8th grade trip to Washington DC, May 10 to 13, 2023. We have
So
a
moved.
motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7I, recommend the board approve the high school symphonic marching band and chamber choir spring trip to Disney World, May 16th to May 21, 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 7J, personnel issues, approve personnel actions recommended in attachment 3. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Isaac?
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeGroat?
Yes.
Roman numeral 8, superintendent's comments.
I'd like to express gratitude to the administration of this district on opening of school. They did an excellent job. You should be very proud of our administration. I've been to several districts, and this is by far the best, professional, and willing to help teachers as well as students. And they've just done an outstanding job. Nicole, sitting here, she had 9 days, I believe, of staff development, or was it 10? 9 days of staff development that she organized, and through all the teachers in the district, and did an excellent job. I want to praise her for that. And- yeah, well, you got to realize that's Digger. But no, he doesn't. And they all do. They do not be very proud of the administration, the teachers. They do a great job here at Valley View Local School District. We do have SROs in the building. It's in a learning stage right now. We have them in each building at different times of the week. We are going through like I said, the learning stages of their responsibilities, but they are there. And I've seen police cars in every building, and I've had a lot of teachers thank me for that, along as the gates being locked in the morning at the elementary. I know some parents are upset over that, but that's something that safety of students comes first. And so anyway, I want to explain the SRO. It'll get better as we learn more of what we're doing. Conjure, the construction company, was here in force to explain what's going on in the project. They're being very caring about us, and they're bending over backwards to see that we can get this project completed. And I want to thank them for that too. I know they're gone. Anyway, so other than that, the school started with a bang. I think it went real well, and we'll just keep it going. Thank you.
Roman numeral 9, board comments. Spencer?
Do you want Carson to go first, or would you like him to go?
I was thinking it'd be kind of nice to let him go last, and just end us on a nice positive.
Absolutely, no problem. I just didn't think you got out of it. No, I echo what Mr. Schaller said about the opening of the school year. Just really impressive, from open house to just seeing the positive experience that all the students have had in the first few days. And I know that some parents can be frustrated with that staggered start, but I really, really think that it helps all of our students, especially our new students, our young students, our freshman students, just to be able to get into the building and get their bearings. And I think that that's been great. So thank you, just everybody who's in it to win it this year, and hopefully our school year is as successful as it has been. Thank you to Valerie for, I know you said it was a dry report, but it's a very happy report. I think that's really impressive, the work that we're doing in order to keep our budget balanced and kind of ahead of the game, and just continue to be excited about the building project. That mound of dirt out there, I want to climb on it every day. Don't get any ideas, but it just to see the dirt moving it's just incredibly exciting. So thank you.
Ben?
The opening of the school went very well, successful. Glad all the teachers had a great day, and my kids were happy. Glad to be back in school all the time, hopefully the whole year. And I would like to say I would like to see the traffic study for this road widening out here, and see why the county's trying to put that cost on our back, when if we're going to come in the other way. I don't see why the county would make us pay for the road widening if we're having another entrance on our property. So I would like to see that. That's all I have.
Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and so I was glad to hear what Digger had to say about some of the multi-pronged approaches that they're trying to look at for our students. And I think one thing that I'd be very interested in is getting maybe an update in a month or 2 or 3 when things quiet down a little bit on how we're going to focus on bullying and how we're going to address it in a little bit more detail. That's something I would have a vested interest in knowing about, because almost every person who commits suicide or has thoughts of it at some point in time has been bullied. So we do know those statistics are out there and it's very real. So I have an interest in learning about that. I do want to say I went to the Valley View football game Friday night, and I was really pleased to see that the student section who had thrown out confetti was cleaning it up under the direction of Mr. Berry. So was super excited to see responsibility being taught at an away game so that we weren't leaving trash and litter all over. So that was a really great thing to see. And then also, Mr. Rudd brought up the relationship that we as a board have with the local library. I would love to see some of the goals that they have specifically in helping our schools. We know all of our kids have suffered academically over the last few years, and I would love to see maybe some thoughts they have, some actionable stuff that they would like to do to help support our school district. So, that's it.
Yes, today I attended the core meeting with Mr. Schaller, Ms. Hill, Mr. Pugh, and then all the Fannie and Howie Conger. It's the regular monthly meeting. One thing that I don't think they mentioned that did come up in the core meeting was the Army Corps of Engineers were still waiting on their permit to cross that they call a stream, which is really a ditch.
Yeah, he said the storm, he didn't
Yeah.
mention it.
Okay, but that's why they haven't quite taken everything all the way to the new building. But the last meeting, I said that we had hoped to get the guaranteed maximum price tonight. I think the board members know that's not going to happen because they were informed earlier, but I just wanted to let everyone else know they're still working on that. And we are having a special board meeting in 2 weeks, hopefully, to discuss that.
All right, so, I would just parrot what other folks have said on, frankly, all of these issues. I would like to especially thank Mrs. Gunter for taking the time to come out and talk tonight. I'm a softie, and there's not a year that goes by that I don't go to the musical and watch the kids, even if they're not my kids. And next thing I know, I got a tear coming out of my eye like a baby. And it's awesome to see these kids pour themselves into something. You see kids who don't typically find their voice, all of a sudden get on that stage and they find their voice. And it's just an amazing thing. And so I know that folks are working to try to find solutions. I hope you understand that we got a lot of moving parts and we got a lot going on in the near term, and unfortunately we got a lot going on in the long term. But we have a lot of smart people in this community. We've got a lot of hardworking people in this community. And if the right people come together with the right objective and the willingness to work for it and creative minds, you can accomplish it. And so I want to thank you for being willing to stand up and share what you can. And last but not least, Carson.
I just want to reiterate what Spencer said about the beginning of the school year. It has been going really well, really smooth, from my experience and from other people's experiences that I've heard about. And then I also want to thank Ms. Gunter for coming out and sharing what she shared. I think as someone with a lot of friends and peers and other classmates that are involved in the drama department and the performing arts department as a whole, I think it's really important that everyone just has a space to do their thing and showcase their talents and just have somewhere where they feel that they belong. I think it would be better for the entire school district if we were able to find a solution that everyone was happy with.
All right, thank you, Carson. And it's great to have you on the board with us, by the way. Roman numeral 10, we need to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. And so I need someone to make a motion that we go into executive session.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Sizer?
Yes.
Mr. Skibby?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. DeBrun? Ben?
Yes.
So there will not be any